Hey everybody, I'm going to change the oil in my 2005 Harley Davidson Fat Boy. Mine's the limited edition, but it really doesn't matter. All the Softails are very similar. This one, as you can see here, is black. It has a black oil tank. I put the Vance Hine short shots on it. This is a 95 cubic inch, which is what they did with the limited edition. The Softail started with the 88 twin cam in, I believe it was 2000. The twin cam started in 1999, but in 2000 they started putting it in the Softail. So it's all very similar. When you go to change the oil, all the bikes are pretty much the same. Right up to 2016, they did go through some iterations. So the 95 cubic inch has larger cylinders. They basically took the 88 and bored it or put new cans on it. And then they went with the 96, I think it was an 07, and that was basically they stroked the 88. And then when they stroked and bored the 88, you got the 103. Anyway, today I'm going to change the oil. It's a pretty easy process, so we'll get started. Here's pretty much everything you're going to need right here. Oil pan there, oil filter, which I picked up from the Harley dealer. Also got an O-ring, and then I'm using the AMSOIL V-Twin 2050. It's full synthetic, but you can just use the regular 2050 oil if you want. 5/8 inch socket, torque wrench. You don't have to have a torque wrench, but you know, if you want to torque it to specs. The oil drain plug is 14 to 21 foot-pounds if you want to be technical about it. Otherwise, you can just snug it pretty tight and it'll do just fine. So I took the bike out and I warmed it up, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the oil dipstick off here so that it drains nicely, and I'll clean that off in a minute. And then the oil drain plug, as you can see, that comes down from the tank is underneath on the frame down there. I don't know if you can see it very good. Right up in here. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to pull the drain plug. Make sure you're lefty-loosey. You get up under there. And you give it a tug. There you go. The rest can be done by hand. And you gotta be quick so you don't spill too much on yourself. And we start draining the oil. Then you want to inspect the plug. I don't see any metal on there. It's looking good. And I'm going to replace that O-ring right there with the new one every time I change the oil. And we'll clean that up and do that. I also check my threads, make sure everything's looking good there. I cleaned it off a little bit. I'm going to slip my new O-ring on here. And this is magnetic, by the way, and that's why I check to see if there's excessive metal. You're going to get a little bit of wear on there, and you might have just a little metal on there, but you don't want too much. You might have an issue and you want to have that checked out. So you'll notice I don't have a stand. It's much more convenient to have a stand when you're draining the oil, but you can do it without one. And then what I do is, just for the last little drips, I sit on the bike and stand it upright and let it finish dripping before I put the plug back on. Okay, I just finished riding the bike and let it finish draining, and I put the drain plug back in and torqued it. Now we're going to come around to this side. And I'm going to take off that oil filter. Alright, I'm going to take off this oil filter. I loosened it a little bit, and you can use whatever oil filter wrench you like to use. This is where it gets a little messy, and it actually is an advantage to have the bike tilted at this point. So I'm going to loosen this. I put a rag down under here, and I put my oil pan down in the bottom so that if it does drip, I'm not going to make a big mess. And get that to where I can hand loosen it. And then the key is speed. And it's for making a big mess. All right, there we go. So I cleaned it up a little bit, but I like to let this drip a little while. And just get as much of that old oil out there as I can. And once it's dripped a bit, and I want to make sure my surface is very clean, I'm going to let that drip on there for just a little bit. We'll come back to it. So while that's dripping, what I do is I fill my filter about 2/3 to 3/4. Got a little too much in there, but it'll go down with oil. And then of course I get just a little bit on the seal, not too much, not too little. Clean that up a little so that it seals properly. I got a little too much in there. I'll make a little bit of a mess. It's okay. The reason for that is that way, when that first of the oil is circulating through the crankcase, you're not leaving it without oil for too long. Alright, I cleaned off my surfaces so they're good and clean after letting that drip a bit. And I put this rag down here. Now I'm going to spin on the new filter as fast as I can. A little bit will leak out, but we'll get it on there quick. Like so. Now I do a little something that's not really recommended. They say you shouldn't tighten it with your wrench, but it's really hard to get a good grip because there's not much room to get your hand in there. So I just give it a little snug, not too tight, so that I don't end up with an oil leak. Okay, got my filter on, cleaned it up a little bit. Now we're going to fill it with oil. Now the manual says to use no more than 3.5 quarts. Made sure my drain plug was on. But I have never put more than 3 quarts in. If you put 3.5 quarts in, you're going to overfill it. So, and you really don't even need a funnel. You can if you're afraid you'll make a mess. And you just pour it in. Let it drip for a bit, and you do that for 3 quarts. Alright, I cleaned off my dipstick. Made sure the rubber seal's looking good. And we can right the bike. You want to check the oil with the bike right up, and it's supposed to be warm, but you can just check it now for posterity's sake. Right the bike, pop it in, and without making a mess, you can see there, I think you can see there it's full. It'll go down a little bit once the oil gets down into the engine. And we're ready to ride. All right, we checked the oil. I checked for leaks. Got no leaks here, no leaks around by the filter. Oil's full, we're ready to fire this baby up.